What time is it, Philip?
It's time for the I Formation!
Week 2 of the I Formation. I'm Jeff Gibbons.
And I'm John Moist.
Boy, week 1 in the can, John. We did pretty good this week, even with our separate different picks this week. Both of us going in at 11 and 5, respectable nonetheless.
Okay. Yeah.
There's a few there this week that nobody saw coming, so some pretty interesting games. A couple of upsets, a couple that were closer than we thought. What's your take on this week?
Well, I think definitely the Buffalo Bills are a big surprise and keeping it close against New England. New England was lucky to win that game. They turned over the ball 3 times and Buffalo turned over the ball twice. Not very often that you see a team with more turnovers winning the game. And Buffalo, E.J. Manuel looked really solid, rookie performance there. Mistake-free, really well. I think he had 1 fumble, but he never threw any interceptions. And he had a fantastic performance in this game.
150 yards in the air, I think, and a touchdown pass. So
yeah.
Respectable for sure. I think he's the future of Buffalo. I think it's good to see a Buffalo quarterback coming along that, starting out like with that kind of poise. And we watched some of that game. And speaking of which, we did the first game of the season. Just want to mention this now before we forget. I'd like to mention that we were actually down at Boston Pizza for the Thursday night opener. We want to thank Megan and all the crew down there who really made us feel at home.
They did. And
we did manage to get this little fella here, the actual real Tony Nomo, that one of us picked up during the festivities. We actually won a couple of draw prizes and we had a great time. Kind of ticked off about the final of the game, but you know what? You call that.
I think it should have been a lot closer than what it was. But Denver, once Baltimore lost Michael Orr, it seemed to go downhill from there because Baltimore's defense was on the field a lot, and they were very tired in the late in the second half. And Denver just took control. Manning picked them apart. 7 touchdown passes, and 2 to rookie tight end Julius Thomas, who looked really good in this game, and Demarius Thomas in the second half had a couple of touchdowns as well. I think he had about 168 yards receiving.
He did.
So.
And I mean, I know that there was another break point too. I mean, it was close up in the second half, and then there was the 4th down or the 3rd down ball thrown to Welker that hit the ground. Suggs, I think it was pointing at the ground, and Harbaugh didn't throw the flag. And I'm thinking it probably because of the delay and all of the static electricity in the air from the lightning that Harbaugh probably just couldn't get out of his hand. That's the story, and I'm going with it because he threw one already and won that turn. He's trusting the players out there. But you're right, Manning put off a clinic.
And that missed call where Harbaugh didn't throw that flag. After that, it seemed like Baltimore was deflated, and it made a big difference in the game. I'm not sure that Baltimore would have won the game because there was such a big gap in the score, but it certainly would have been a lot closer.
It would have been a more palatable ending, I'm sure. And I'm saying that still, Peyton Manning still had to throw those 7 touchdown passes and still had to find his receiver. So let's not take it away from the big guy.
No.
Really put something together there. How about that game of the week?
We picked Miami, and I have to say that Miami's defense was fantastic. Wheaton threw 3 picks to Miami secondary that I said was the weakness in the team last year. Young fella Patterson came
Dimitri
through.
Patterson, absolutely.
Fantastic performance by him and a couple of picks. And they had Tannehill thrown for 272 yards and a touchdown as well. But and Hartline had 114 yards and a touchdown. But when it came to this game, we got to talk about the Miami defense, which was just fantastic. They sacked Whedon 6 times. Like I said, 3 interceptions. And the most telling tale was that the Browns on 3rd down conversions were 1 for 14. 1 for 14. That is great defense. And Miami won this game on defense and are looking very good.
I said last week that Miami needs to step up this year and show they were premier defense in this league, and I think they made a big statement in week 1.
Yes.
Ryan Tannehill will get better with time, and like you said, Hartline had a good game. Brandon Gibson had several catches as well.
Mike Wallace cried a bit because he was used as a decoy, but I think Jeff wants to talk about that a little.
You know, he's not happy with his role in the offense. It's week 1. I'm sorry. Give credit to Philbin here. You know, you're going to call the plays. A receiver as good as Mike Wallace is going to draw coverage. So now if you've got Brandon Gibson and you've got Brian Hartline now freer to get the ball because of double coverage and things like that, you know what? Not a bad setup in Miami. And Tannehill got the job done. Like I said, 24 for 38, 272 yards in the air, and a touchdown pass. This is all you need. One thing that was anemic in this game for the Miami Dolphins was the run, which was virtually non-existent. I think, if I remember correctly, Thomas led the game with something like 23 rush yards and 14 carries.
Well, the defense, Miami's defense shut down Trent Richardson. There wasn't very much running on either end of the ball there.
But I know Thomas, and I said this last week, Thomas got the ball on the 1 yard line. He was the guy that run in that touchdown late.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, I mean, that's going to happen. We didn't see much out of Lamar Miller this week, but it was that type of game, you know. Towards the end, the defense won this game clearly for the Miami Dolphins, and I said last week I figured it would be a 10-point spread. 13 works for me. And I think I'm giving them a fair chance, as a matter of fact, to win and beat Indianapolis this week. But we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
One more word I'd like to say about Mike Wallace, though, is that he is not supporting his team when he comes out after the game and says, ask the coach. He doesn't want to talk to the cameraman. He doesn't want to talk to reporters. The bottom line here is that this team came away with a W, and Wallace should be happy with the W instead of complaining about his role. He'll get his catches this year. You better stop sooking.
What is it with wideouts in Miami, you know? Like, I mean, Ocho Cinco, I'm sorry, Chad Johnson, you know, headbutting his wife. Brandon Marshall. All these guys, you know, like, there's something goes on there. And hopefully we can straighten out this Wallace situation, because I think he's going to be a big piece for Miami. I got to say, something else in the AFC East, John, before I forget. What I think was probably, arguably, the worst out-of-bounds personal foul call ever called in the history of the game happened at the Meadowlands in the last 30 seconds of the game, where a game was taken, I think, away from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, neither team, let's face it, it was the game where nobody wanted to win. I don't, you know, when you see the likes of Doug Martin run for 65 yards, nobody seemed to be getting anything done there. The two offenses were anemic. I will say Geno Smith played an extraordinarily good game for a rookie for his first start in the National Football League. I think, going 24 for 38, 256 passing yards, a touchdown and a pick.
No picks.
No, he had one pick.
He did have one?
Yeah,
Okay.
he had one pick. I got to say, Levante David, who was the guy who pushed out, I think it was Cal Winslow, I think, on that play. Winslow's, I think it was Winslow, I'm going on record saying, his foot wasn't even on the out-of-bounds line when he was touched. It was close. And you know what? I've seen a lot worse hits out of bounds that have not been called. And after the march down the field, and Geno Smith did make a nice play to get a nice yardage, but the 15 yards iced it and put them within field goal range. Sorry. Let's not talk about the resiliency of the New York Jets here. I think that this team is going to have trouble going forward. I think they stole a game here. I think it was solely on that call. I'm sorry, I don't see it any other way. Might sound like bad grapes.
That being said, but Levante David is a fantastic football player, and he was having a great game up until that point. He had 8 tackles, he had a pick, and it's just unfortunate that he had made that hit out of bounds, but that's the way he plays ball, and I still got a lot of respect for this man.
I do too, and I think out of bounds is a relative term after what has happened. Ndamukong Suh, his punishment comes down as we go today to film here on today is what, Tuesday? $100,000 for his low block on Viking center John Sullivan.
Yeah.
Gotta say, it's time for you to smarten up and play the game. You're an incredible defensive player. You need to smarten up. these kinds of things are only going. What are you trying to do? What are you, Madonna now? You need to be in the news every single week. You need to play the game that you're capable of playing. That Lions defense is a solid unit. You're taking away from a great team who can do great things. Just saying. So, we got some picks this week. I think that we're varying on a lot of different ones. I think it's maybe 3 or 4. Let's see how that's going to play out. Stick around, folks. We're going to give you our picks of the week.
NFL kickoff September 5th, 2013. Here we are at Boston Pete's on Stavanger Drive. The I formation at France. John just getting started. We got Wolver back into us. Got our buddy Rod, got our buddy Billy, the manager, Caitlin, her sister. And we're still trying to figure out who's going to win tonight. Of course, I've already explained to John it's going to be a Ravens upset to his homer Denver Broncos. Just the first of many disagreements this year, I'm sure, but probably not going to be the last one.
Well, we'd like to go to John now for his rebuttal on that.
It's going to be a great game. It's going to be a close game. It's going to be 24-20 Broncos final.
But look at that hair. Bob Costas.
I told you not to compare me to Costas.
Welcome back to the I Formation. Now we'll make our picks for week 2 of the NFL season. Starting with the Thursday nighter between the New York Jets and the New England Patriots. What do you think, Jeff?
Well, in Foxborough, so they're in Foxborough. That's going to be a tough one no matter who you're playing. New England had some trouble with Buffalo last week. And, I know Brady's trying to work out the receiver thing, throwing a lot of passes to Edelman and throwing a lot of passes to Danny Amendola. And during the time that he was out, he got hurt during, he was out about a quarter and a half, had some real trouble with that offensive drives. Amendola doesn't look like he's going this week. That injury may be a little bit worse. I know he had a groin injury in training camp. It's probably aggravated that. Shane Vereen, who had the majority of touches in the last game, has a broken bone in his hand.
Had over 100 yards in the last game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they had Stephen Ridley on the bench because he fumbled the ball twice. So, they were going to Vereen. So they're going to have to go back to Ridley. Gronkowski is still out. I think that Edelman is going to get a lot of the action as a wide receiver. Yeah. So now, being forearmed is forewarned, I think the Jets can capitalize on that, but I don't care what the Jets do. After what they did this week and what it took for them to win, I don't see them beating the New England Patriots. Certainly we didn't see Buffalo being close with New England either, but I think it's just underlining, John, some of the issues that this Patriots team has. There's been a lot of changes, just like last year, and most of their receivers have totally been refurbished or recycled, if you will. The loss of Wes Welker is huge. Certainly Aaron Hernandez, and the list goes on. So Brady is making a lot of changes, and he's not getting any younger. And that offensive line is going to have to hold up. And I see them having real trouble with some of these teams. But I think we're both in agreement. New England wins this game.
I really think New England, and if you're a fantasy football player, you might want to go out and get Julian Edelman because he's going to have a big week. And I did mention also Zach Sudfeld in last week, and he didn't even have a catch this past week. I think that Sudfeld's going to show up in this game, and he may surprise.
Next, we got Dallas at Kansas City.
I went back and forth on this one, but the Chiefs at Arrowhead. I think they can pull it out against Dallas. Dallas's corners, Brandon Carr and Morris Claiborne, they came up with some key interceptions against Eli Manning in the past week. However, Manning did throw for 450 yards. Victor Cruz and Hakeem Nicks both went over 100 yards. Cruz had 3 touchdowns, so it's not like Dallas's secondary lit it up. I think that Alex Smith, who had a very good game last week, mistake-free once again, by the way, 175 yards, a couple of touchdowns. I believe he ran one in as well.
Yep.
And I think that Kansas City, in a close game, will beat the Cowboys.
Jamal Charles, with that aggravation of one of his quadriceps, says he's okay to go.
He called it a minor injury. Yeah. So
I agree with you 100% here. Then we got St. Louis in the Dome to play Atlanta.
Matt Ryan in
at
the
home.
Dome doesn't lose very many games at home.
And St. Louis, while they
defensively, St. Louis looks great, and I think it might be closer than what most people think. But Atlanta's a tough team to beat, and coming off a loss, they're going to be real tough.
Well, you can count on one hand how many times you've lost home in the Dome.
Yeah.
That speaks for itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Minnesota and Chicago in that division rivalry there.
And the Bears, as I was talking to Jeff about this earlier today, and I said that it was a tale of two corners. Tim Jennings last week had a couple of forced fumbles. I believe it was
Peanut Tillman.
Charles Tillman, yes, had 2 interceptions as well. And I think that the Bears have the best corners in the game. I think that Bears have one of the best defenses in the game. I don't think Minnesota can measure up, especially with Christian Ponder at quarterback. Was responsible for 4 turnovers by himself this week. You turn over the ball 4 times as a quarterback, you will lose every game you play. And they are in Chicago against a Bears defense that will be coming after the ball. And I guarantee you, this will be the Bears by 2 touchdowns.
If they play Ditka, 765-3 if Ditka stops for a cigar. Okay, next one, we vary. We've got San Diego going in to play the Eagles in Philadelphia. Gotta tell you, we both pick Washington to win this week against Philadelphia. This Chip Kelly hurry-up offense, I don't know how long they can sustain that, but the thing about it is, Chip Kelly, while I'm not a really big fan of Chip Kelly, got to give the devil his due. Oregon State guy, you know, one of the problems in this last game, they did have, I think it was a 33-7 lead on the Washington Redskins and managed to hold on with a touchdown and had less than 100 yards passing, I think, in the total offense in the second half,
Yeah.
was it? They were used to in Oregon State. I know they averaged nearly 45 points a game, and they've been known for taking their foot off the neck, to take their foot off the throttle, so to speak. That's not something you can do in the National Football League, and I think that's going to bite Chip Kelly. He almost bit him this week, in the Monday Nighter. If they're going to play that kind of intensity or that kind of speed, something's going to give. You're going to make mistakes. I mean, watching that Washington game, and how LaShawn McCoy marched down the field, this hurry up, really put people like London Fletcher, who's nearly 40 years old, behind the 8 ball. And then what happened? A little tip on a lateral pass and a touchdown. Almost blew the complexion of the game wide open again. So I think they're going to have to be careful, but I think Philadelphia has what it takes to handle the San Diego team, who had another Monday night massacre and nightmare in their own hands, up 21 points this week on the Houston Texans, and blew that lead and lost that at the horn. So this is not a team that's used to winning lately. And Phillip Rivers, don't have a lot of confidence in Phillip Rivers. I think that Philadelphia beats them at home, and I think that it might even be, the lesson might be learned by Chip Kelly. I think they beat these guys by at least 10 points.
Well, I'm going to go with the upset here. When I watched the game between San Diego and Houston, I saw, obviously there was 2 different teams on the field. The San Diego Chargers in the first half and the San Diego Chargers in the second half. Now the Chargers came out and they established a running game. They made some great plays. Phillip Rivers had 4 touchdown passes. Even though he completed less than 50% of his passes in this game, he did not have a great performance. I just have a feeling that San Diego has some veteran presence there that's going to come back after, losing a 21-point lead to a fantastic, very strong Houston defense, one of the best in the game. I don't think Philadelphia has close to the defense that Houston has. I think San Diego can come out, they can establish that running game again, and I think with the veteran presence of Antonio Gates and Floyd at wide receiver, I really believe that San Diego can pull the upset here. I'm going to pick it a close game. I'm going to say San Diego by less than a touchdown.
Philly by 10 only if they keep their foot on the gas. But we're going to agree to disagree. Mm-hmm. The next one, the Miami Dolphins are now in Lucas Oil Stadium this week to take on the Indianapolis Colts, who are now 1-0.
Yeah, well, I think that Miami certainly had a great showing, and Indianapolis not so great, although Andrew Luck did have a respectable game where he did not throw an interception. I think that Indianapolis at home, they were 7-1 at home last year, very strong home team. Matheson and Bethea there, and I think it's going to be really hard for Ryan Tannehill to move the ball in this game. And I think that Indianapolis is going to come back and show what they're made of. I'm picking Indy by 10 points in this one.
Okay, I'm on the other side of this. Miami needs to go into Lucas Oil, where they are tough to play, no doubt. But I look at Andrew Luck and the Indianapolis Colts this week squeaking by a team that has been deemed to be the worst team in the NFL statistically in the Oakland Raiders. They managed to put 17 points on the board against the Indianapolis Colts. And I think that Miami's defense is going to step up. Was it last year? They lost by a field goal last year when they played the Colts.
That was 24-21.
Something like that.
Something like that.
And I think, with the additions to Miami's secondary, I think they're going to be able to, they're going to force Luck to make bad decisions. I think, they're ready, and it's a cherry for the picking. The Dolphins also realize that their games get infinitely harder over the next couple of weeks. They have to play the Atlanta Falcons, and they have to play the New Orleans Saints. And for my master plan to take this year, bye week 6, they need to have a winning record, and they needed the game in Cleveland. They played hard. I think they play hard against the Indianapolis Colts, and I'm giving them a shot to beat the Atlanta Falcons too. All things being equal. So it's all about motivating this team to play. So the Mike Wallace thing has to be dealt with this week. Philbin needs to talk to him, and I think they're going to have to run the football. They're going to have to do better this week with Lamar Miller and certainly Daniel Thomas to establish that run and give Tannehill a chance to stretch the field with Wallace Gibson and Brian Hartline. If that happens, Miami by 7 points. So we agree to disagree once again.
Yes.
And we come back, Washington and Green Bay. And two teams licking their wounds from last week's games. Both teams we picked to win. No, actually we didn't pick Green Bay to win, but we picked Green Bay to be in that game, and they certainly were. How do you see this one?
I see the Packers at home. They put up a good performance against San Francisco. Their secondary is really bad. They gave up a lot of passing yards, over 400 to Kaepernick, and they didn't come up with a pick there. They're really going to have to do something about that. Aaron Rodgers is just too much at home, though. And I think that, although I do respect RG3, he is not the quarterback that Aaron Rodgers is, and Washington is not the team that Green Bay is. It's just that simple. And I really believe that Green Bay wins this game in a big way.
I'm with you right up to the big way thing. I think that if they bounce back and they play the way they can play, I think Aaron Rodgers orchestrates the win in the fourth quarter.
Okay.
But tough in Lambeau.
Like
Cleveland and Baltimore, two other teams that are licking their wounds this week. But I still don't see it any other way. I think we see it the same way here. Cleveland has made some improvement this year. Certainly getting rid of Pat Shurmur was a big part of that. And we all know how much you love him.
Yeah. Why do you think I'm picking San Diego? Anyway.
Yes. And Baltimore is back at home after losing a tough game against the Denver Broncos. I think they're all that in a bag of chips. I'm still picking them to win it. I think this is not even close.
This is not the demise of the Baltimore Ravens, people. I mean, it should have been a lot closer against Denver than it was. They are still a Super Bowl contender, and although this is a divisional game, and it may be close, Baltimore will win this game, and Ray Rice is going to have a big game on the ground. You can count on it.
You heard it here. Next we got Carolina going in to play Buffalo. And we differ on this pick too.
Yeah.
And I don't know what, I think your Carolina Panthers this year are my Chiefs from last year. Yeah. You keep seeing some glimmer of brilliance in these people. Why don't you tell me why you think
because
Carolina's going to be
is one of the best defensive players in the game, and Charles Johnson is another one. They got Hardy as well, and these guys have just got a great defense. And they showed a great defensive performance against Seattle, where they only gave up 12 points. The offense wasn't that great. Seattle's defense outplayed them, of course, and I thought that game could have gone either way, but there was a turnover there in the last part of the game that gave Seattle the win, and Earl Thomas, I believe, came up with that, stripping the ball on D'Angelo Williams, and that was the decider in the game. But it could have gone either way, and I really think that Carolina has a better team than Buffalo. Buffalo showed that they have a better team than what most people thought when they played New England and kept it close. But I just like Carolina's ground game with D'Angelo Williams. I think Steve Smith will have a big game, and I think their tight end Greg Olson is also he's a great blocker and he's a great receiver as well. I think Carolina has more talent, and I think they win this game.
I think Buffalo's been underrated because of the fact that they've gone to E.J. Manuel as their starting quarterback. I mean, you know, as a rookie, that was a scary thing walking into to a game to have to play Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. You know,
He's a gamer.
right? But he showed a lot of poise. You know, threw for 150 yards, threw for a touchdown, had a good start, and seems to be in touch with this team. There's a harmony there that doesn't happen to a lot of quarterbacks in year one, let alone week one. I think Manuel and Buffalo are better because of that. I mean, when you look at the likes of Chandler, Johnson, you know, he's got a chance to put big numbers on the board if he holds at the O-line, you know, hold in place for him. I think that Spiller's got to have a big day on the ground in order for them to be effective against Carolina.
And I really think that that is the biggest reason why I will pick Carolina to win this game. Marshawn Lynch managed 47 yards, or 46 or 47 yards in the game, and when you shut down Marshawn Lynch, you can shut down C.J. Spiller too. I think you can. I think Carolina's defense is the real deal.
As I've said 30 times before, well, that remains to be seen.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Tennessee is in Houston. Division matchup here. And, you know, while Tennessee went in this year, or this week past, and beat the Wounded Gazelle this year, that is the Pittsburgh Steelers, you know, losing Pouncey this week, their starting center. And,
Wow.
right, huge.
Pro Bowl center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, who do you like here? Still, I don't think, like you said to me this week, Tennessee is still not as strong as they looked against Pittsburgh.
Tennessee don't have much. I really don't think. I mean, Pittsburgh, they came out that they had nothing, and they didn't show much. Marquise Pouncey went down, a Pro Bowl center. They also lost Larry Foote, and a great defensive player there. I believe Stevens Howling as well went down to injury. Pittsburgh is really beaten up after this one, and when you lose your center, you're going to have trouble. And I think that Houston has a fantastic defense, especially Cushing is back healthy this year, and of course J.J. Watt. I really don't think that Tennessee has much of a team. I'd be surprised if they win 5 games this year. I think Houston is going to pound them. How's that?
All right, fair enough. Detroit is in Arizona. We both see this the same way too.
Yeah, although I'm a little bit scared of it because Arizona is a good football team, especially at home, and they have a good defense. But Detroit has found Reggie Bush, and the man had, what was it, 190 all-purpose yards this week? Wow.
Tore the fantasy leagues for sure.
they-
32 fantasy points I think this week.
And the young fella Bell and the goal line went in a couple times too. So Detroit has found a running game. And when you got a running game along with Matthew Stafford and Calvin Johnson,
Yeah, well, I was wondering when we were going to get Megatron the conversation.
That's right.
Maybe he would like Mike Wallace and get all upset.
yeah, Nate Burleson had a good game too.
Burleson. I remember when he played. Yeah. Anyway, we're not going down the fantasy road.
We're both picking Detroit then.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We've also got New Orleans and Tampa Bay. And I don't think this, even though this is a division rival as well, I don't see this being close either, unfortunately. Tampa Bay looks like they're going to 2-0, or 0-2 I should say, and I don't think it's a fair 0-2, a fair indication. Martin has to play better. Josh Freeman, you know, I thought bigger things of him, you know, for his size and his mobility. Not seeming to get much done up there in Tampa Bay. But New Orleans Saints, who you know, who rocked Atlanta this week, are going to go to 2-0.
Too many weapons.
Yeah.
Too many weapons for the Saints. This is always a close game. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. Tampa Bay at home. If this was in New Orleans, I'd probably say different. Probably say New Orleans by 20 points. But Tampa Bay at home is going to keep this game close. And but I still will pick the Saints to come out on top because they just got too many weapons.
The best defense is a good offense, and I think Martin has to keep them offense on the field for them to be successful. All right, Denver and the Giants. This is the Manning Bowl this week. I don't see it any other way but Peyton beating Eli, especially after the lackluster performance Eli had this week. Self-precipitated his own loss, I think. You know, even though he was able to throw some touchdown passes, Cruz had a big game, but Manning was in full control of his destiny. And I think, you know.
And Denver's found a new guy on defense here I wanted to make mention of, and his name is Iheanacho, is his last name. And he had 15 tackles in this game, and it's fun to say, isn't it? Iheanacho. But
spent the whole week going, Nacho Man!
And yes, I did have to look up the pronunciation of that. But Iheanacho had 15 tackles. He beat out Mike Adams for the spot because there were so many people that were talking about him in training camp. And Mike Adams, great player, but Iheanacho beats him out, 15 tackles. And he also had 3 pass defenses, really making a name for himself there. And it's going to be someone to watch. Keep an eye on him.
It was only fun to say Gesundheit twice when he said the name during the week. All right. Jacksonville is in Oakland. And I see Oakland beating Jacksonville for a number of reasons. One, it's Jacksonville. Even though people, and like I said, a lot of the pros looked at the Oakland Raiders as being a very, very poor team this year. Couple of things, couple of bright spots there. Well, first off, Jacksonville really, the defense struggled against the run versus Kansas City this past week. I think Darren McFadden has an opportunity here to have a really big day. And they were going to the receivers in that last game, you know, in the air and pounding the rock, right? So a couple of different ways to look at this: yards after catch and using your running backs in short yardage situations. So McFadden has a chance here to have a big day. If he plays well, I think Oakland beats them without question.
Yeah, I think the big day is going to come from Terrell Pryor. I was impressed with him last week, and I think that against Jacksonville's defense, he has the opportunity to come out here and put together a very big day.
And Pryor's another example, you're right, of quarterbacks making a team that has looked very poor much better. Like I said,
ran for over 100 yards.
Yeah, he's you know, this is a new breed. This whole these options too. This read option thing is, anyway.
Then again, you know, I also Jacksonville is without Blaine Gabbert. What do you think of that?
Oh well. They're also without me. Does that make a big difference? Just curious. Well, maybe a center. Your Pittsburgh's calling my phone. San Francisco and Seattle. This is another huge game for implications, even early in the season, as to in that division. Both teams coming off wins. Seattle at home. You know, the 12th man concept. Shout out to you, Mr. Loader. I know this is your team. And I really believe in this whole Pete Carroll philosophy out there too. They're a team that can win. They're a team that are very tough to beat at home. But I got to say, this week, I'm concerned. I think we've talked about this. The problem I've got this week is that they only scored 12 points against the Carolina Panthers. If I see them beating the Panthers handily, I give them a better chance of beating the San Francisco 49ers at home. But after the numbers that Colin Kaepernick put up this week, not looking good for Seattle. Wouldn't mind losing this pick at all, but I got a funny feeling we're not going to lose it. We're picking San Fran right straight across.
To tell you the truth, going into this season, and it only took me 1 week for me to change my mind, I wasn't a big fan of Kaepernick. Thought that his style of play would eventually be caught on to by opposing defenses. But he comes out in the first week and he throws for over 400 yards. I mean, the guy is definitely the real deal. And I think that Seattle, and I'm going to make a strong statement here that a lot of people are not going to agree with. I think Seattle Seahawks are overrated. I don't think they have much this year. And they have a great defense, and they have Marshawn Lynch on offense, and Wilson's certainly a capable quarterback. I don't think they're close to the team that the San Francisco 49ers are. I think the Niners are the best defense in the NFL right now, and arguably the best team out there. Denver Broncos might have something to say about that. But I think San Francisco wins this game. It may be close because it is in Seattle, and as Jeff said, the 12th man. But I think San Francisco for sure.
Okay, I think it's going to be close. Wouldn't mind losing this pick, like I said, because all things being equal, go Hawks. But unfortunately. Finally, we have the Monday night matchup. We've got another divisional rivalry. Pittsburgh is in Cincinnati to play the Bengals. And we've already talked about all the buzzers circling around the Pittsburgh Steelers. Hard stuff. Losing your Pro Bowl center, that's a huge blow to any team. And that offensive line is giving trouble to Ben Roethlisberger already. Had all kinds of trouble in this last game. Couldn't generate any offense. I mean, it was that game right up till a minute 4 left was 16-2, and they managed to finally pound after 4 pounds on 4th down. They scored a touchdown. Just not what we're used to seeing out of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, well, the Pittsburgh Steelers allowed Ben Roethlisberger to get sacked 6 times in this one, and now they're without their Pro Bowl center Marquise Pouncey. I just don't see it any other way. I think Cincinnati's front 7 is going to come in and attack and attack and attack. I think Roethlisberger's going to spend a lot of time on his back in this game, and I think that Cincinnati will win this one by 2 touchdowns.
The Bengals are an up-and-coming team, and they've been getting better and better over the last few years, and they're a contender, no doubt. I think Cincinnati beats Pittsburgh, and I think they beat them bad. It's a sin, but I think it's going to happen.
Yeah, injury trouble there in Pittsburgh.
Yep. So that's the picks for this week. Stick around, and we'll get our final thoughts.
Go ahead.
Yeah, Baltimore just took a 7-0 lead, and Gibbons is over here getting real happy. Not going to last. Not worried at all. Go Broncos.
Hi, and welcome back to the I Formation. And now we're going to pick our player of the week and our team of the week. Going to start off my player of the week, and John, looking at Danny Amendola possibly being out for the New England Patriots this week, I think the rock is going to go to Julian Edelman out wide. So I'm picking Edelman to have a big week for the New England Patriots.
You're picking a Patriot as your player of the week.
Guess I deserved that, didn't I?
I guess you did. I'm going to pick the Baltimore Ravens' Ray Rice. I know that Cleveland shut down Lamar Miller of the Miami Dolphins here last week. Simply stated, Lamar Miller is not Ray Rice. I think Ray Rice is going to have a big game here, and he's going to be my pick for player of the week.
4th and 29, baby. Team of the week this week. Who do you like?
I'm going to pick my Denver Broncos in the Manning Bowl, Peyton versus Eli. So many weapons there in Denver. You got Tony Romo in Dallas putting up over 30 points against the Giants. What do you think Denver's going to do? But they found this new target here in Julius Thomas, the rookie tight end, who had a fantastic game. They got Demaryius Thomas, they got Wes Welker, oh my God, Eric Decker. A lot of weapons. So I have to pick Peyton Manning and my Denver Broncos as my team of the week.
Good call, good call. I think I'm going to go with the Cincinnati Bengals this week. I think that they put off a really big show against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, it's just the beginning of a good season for the Bengals, who are going to be in the mix. And I said, we're calling for a wild card this week. Mm-hmm. So there you have it, folks. Putting ourselves out there again for week 2. Come back and see how that goes. And we'll be updating on Facebook like we do. Come visit our site. Give us a like. The I Formation on Facebook. Certainly look us up on YouTube as well to check out our videos from last year and certainly from this year. And that is at Omega Adam 474 on YouTube. So make sure you visit us, give us a like, and share our videos, share our commentary. Let us know what you think and put your picks out there too.
Absolutely. We want to hear from everybody.
Okay, so shout out to everyone who's been following us. We had quite a number of hits this week already on our first show, and it can only get bigger and better, folks. So until next week, it's good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Have fun.